I think, one of the things that has allowed the Global Autism Project to exist for 18 years so far, and to survive, knock on wood, I know we're still in it, but survive a global pandemic, is our constant willingness to look at ourselves and what we're doing, and to look at, are we being who we say we're being? Are we doing with and not for? And I think that what in the last year, especially as we're hearing from more and more autistic voices and through the podcast and some people don't know that there's a lot of work and conversations and research that goes into producing a podcast episode. And if you've ever done research on the internet, you start looking at one thing and you're down a rabbit hole looking at the next thing and you're learning about something else.
Oh, yeah.
So we have learned a lot as an organization. And I said earlier, around the world, if people make it to adulthood, people ask me all the time, do you work with adults with autism in other countries? You can ask people in other countries, and some of them will tell you, we don't have adults with autism. And you think, well, surely that's not possible because autism doesn't impact your lifespan. The way society interacts with autism does. That's changing. That has changed a lot in the close to 20 years I've been working in this field. There are more and more autistic self-advocates around the world. And, it occurred to us, it was before the pandemic. I think it was probably maybe even maybe even two before the pandemic. We really started looking at, we had a number of autistic employees, and we were getting into just some really amazing kind of after hours conversations on ableism. And it was just this really fascinating, just a lot of learning and really great. And so what we really learned is that we're seeing our partners around the world as the people that we're working in partnership with. People, the parents, the professionals, and also the autistic community has a lot to offer and a lot to share. And we can learn so much. We can learn so much about our inherent biases. We can learn so much about ableism. There's just so much to learn by truly listening and getting curious. I've started conversations with autistic self-advocates who say ABA is the worst thing in the world. It's abuse. They've literally put up their hands and gone at me. And we've had conversations. And we've just gotten curious. And we've gone from this to, sure, I'd love to help you with that. I'd love to be on your podcast. I'd love to, whatever it is. It's like we're able to sort of bridge that gap by just getting curious about each other.
Yeah. And from a clinical standpoint, listening to the harm that ABA has caused and acknowledging that, learning from it.
Acknowledging that. Yeah.
Yeah. And people want to be heard, giving them that space to express that and applying their recommendations. Sometimes based on the context, it can't always be done. Right. But in the perfect environment, not continuing to teach forced compliance or that pure extinction that really does cause trauma in the moment. Like I've seen this because I was taught this way almost 10 years ago when I started as a BT, and I've myself had to do a lot of unlearning also.
Of course.
So I'm so thankful for these autistic voices speaking up and bringing awareness so that we can then make sure that our partners around the world are also practicing humane, compassionate ABA.
Yeah. So that is one thing I think that is really great about being able to work with our partners around the world in places where even educating the autistic population is a novel idea, is that we do get to bring, we get to bring the learnings. We get to bring the learnings of compassion. We get to bring the learnings of trauma informed. We get to bring this with us. We get to start where we are now. And what's beautiful about that is with the SkillCorps program, people travel with us. They tend to be a little bit more open and amenable to tweaking the way in which they're working, to adjusting their thinking, because they're in a brand new culture. They're in a brand new place. And they're sort of like, how should I? And then they bring it back. And I think, to your point about acknowledgement goes a long way. And we have a really, really big problem in this culture and in this world at dealing with and addressing acknowledgement. We haven't acknowledged slavery. We haven't acknowledged the trauma that other health professions have caused. We haven't acknowledged the trauma of ABA. We haven't acknowledged it.
Yeah.
We haven't actually listened and heard what the concerns are.
Yeah.
And when we do, we go, yeah, but. And this is distinct from the context needs to be considered. Because I have had these conversations with autistic advocates who tell me no one should ever be taught to not STEM. And I'm like, okay. And rather than saying, what if, yeah, but, I just start asking them questions. I just get curious about it. And I really genuinely say, like, what if you're in a country where if you're stimming in public, you run the risk of being kidnapped and brought for an exorcism? And it's like, well, yeah, they can't stim in public. Okay, got it. So what do we do as practitioners in that case? What if they're a grown adult Black male and they're stimming in public? And the police, they're going to have an interaction with the police. Really, genuinely, not what if, yeah, but I'm trying to one-up you, but like, how do we address that? Say we address that by training the police. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And there are a lot of police.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what does SkillCorps look like in the future now that we're working with the autistic population?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is it doesn't look wildly different than it did a couple of years ago. We have had autistic self-advocates traveling with SkillCorps for the past, almost since it started, honestly. And then we've really increased and really made an effort to have more autistic self-advocates traveling. So what does SkillCorps look like? It looks like an opportunity to meaningfully engage with autistic self-advocates. It looks like an opportunity to have these hard conversations with partners around the world. It looks like an opportunity to just collaborate, to learn from each other, to learn different ways of listening. Honestly, a lot of what SkillCorps looks like is learning to listen.
Mm-hmm. You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.